What's up, everybody? This is the Couple on Fire podcast, season 1, episode 25. On today's episode, we're going to talk about whether conflict resolution is actually real, and that's coming up
right now.
Right now! Are you a Christian and you are looking to take your faith, your family, and your future to the next level?
Then this is the channel for you.
Welcome to today's programming. I am your host, one of your hosts, Josh, and I'm here with the incredibly gorgeous, man, look at that. Look how pretty she is, everyone. That's Christy. That's my wife.
Hello.
So beautiful, so awesome. If you only knew how awesome she really is.
Oh my God.
So today's episode, we're actually talking about something that really comes up so much in our lives. We actually talk about it a lot, and it's funny how often people avoid conflict. You know, and once we understand that there actually is real resolution to conflict, there's a proper way, there's healthy ways, there's so many different ways of handling it. And Christy actually deals with this on a daily basis. She actually had to write a bunch of handwritten notes tonight because she has so much she can share about it. She deals with this so much, and it's actually made a huge difference in just not only just her work career, but I would say probably in personal too, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, I think that I was always made to be a conflict resolution person, only before I really submitted my life to God and really got healthy myself and dealt with the things that I struggled with. I would handle it in confrontation. I would handle it confrontationally rather than, conflict resolution. So now that I really, that's just a skill set of mine. I really love it. And it's one of those things when you're really good at something, it's just like an obvious hole that you see almost wherever you go in every situation, how many people avoid dealing with problems head on because they're just uncomfortable with how to handle it. They only know how to fight or flight. That's what they either want to fight or they want to just not deal with it at all. So it's actually shocking. And it's a huge, huge gap in our society, I think, as a whole, is how to deal with conflict in a healthy, responsible way.
Yeah. Would you say that one of the major issues within not just the workplace, but in personal relationship, would you not say that part of that is the communication is understanding real conflict between two people?
Yes. And I think part of it is we're all broken people that have issues. And so we don't take self-responsibility of things. So even if someone came up to me in this day and age and we tried to become friends, let's just say we went and hung out a couple times with a lady that I went to breakfast with or something. And then afterwards she said to me, like, I just don't really think our personalities are like meshing. Maybe she asked me to mentor her or vice versa. I asked her to mentor me. And she was like, I really just don't think our personalities are meshing very well. If a lot of people would be like, oh my gosh, are you serious? Like, who doesn't? But if you really took a step back and really were honest with yourself, you would probably know that your personalities aren't meshing. And it's like, yeah, you're right. We really aren't. Like, it's like kind of like oil and water, you know? Peace, love, happiness, see you later. Good luck with your life. And people just aren't like that. They get offended. So, and that is one thing Josh and I have talked about. I really don't get offended about anything. Now I get ticked off about certain things, but I really, when it comes to like me personally getting offended about something, I really don't. I just don't get offended.
I think most people, though, when they go into a conversation with somebody or go into a new relationship, like you mentioned, like going to breakfast with somebody new, that they go into it with too much of thinking about themselves and about how they're taking the person, the way that they're saying things to them, and then they don't feel comfortable enough that they can actually be honest with the other person. Like you said, if you go to tell somebody like this isn't working well for me, oh, how dare you? There must be something wrong with me. No, doesn't mean there's anything wrong with you. That's just being honest about it. And there's healthy ways to be honest.
But then on the flip side of that too, that's why a lot of people aren't honest with people, is because they're scared of that reaction. So if you are a healed, healthy, confident heart check. I always say a heart check. If you're not doing it to be malicious, disrespectful, and you feel like you're really doing it in a loving way, you can't take responsibility for the other person's reaction. Your responsibility is to be honest. That's your responsibility in a loving, respectful way. That's it. Not expect the other person to agree with you. No expectations. Just taking responsibility for yourself, be loving and honest. And then if whatever feelings they have from your honesty, they are allowed to have those feelings. I mean, that's it.
Well, and we've said before, too, where people actually want to hear their opinions come out of your mouth. You know, they're not willing to listen to the reality of what's going on. So they don't want to hear the honesty either. So that's how we always say, like, trust is really difficult with some people, because the reason why they don't trust you is probably because they're a little untrustworthy. And I mean, I think you could take that with a grain of salt. I think that can, really play out a lot of different ways. But I think there is some truth in that. I think there can be a lot of truth in that. When we're trying to talk to people in communication, are we just buttering them up because we want something in return? Or are we just trying to make them think something different than really what's going on? And this becomes this play of game within the communication. And then all of a sudden, if there is conflict, everybody dances around it and nobody's willing to actually resolve what's going on. And what we do, especially as Christians, we'll pretend a lot around it. We will dance around it, or we will completely avoid the person, sit on the other side of the church, don't go to gatherings with these people, stay away from them. We end up not even trying to resolve it.
Defriend them on Facebook.
Yeah. Ooh, right? Good gravy.
But I've never heard this, okay? And I feel like I made it up. So I'm going to toot my horn, toot, toot, But I would say, tell my people all the time, a huge, huge switch in my brain for me is when I was training my employees or other managers that were under me of how to deal with conflict with their employees, with even peers, is to say you're thinking of the I forgot it now. Conversation instead of confrontation. You're thinking of it as confrontation instead of a conversation.
Yes.
And once you make that switch in your brain, it really takes that weight off of you. You're not going into it. So anyway, so we got to get to the point.
Yeah.
Sorry.
So
I could go on and on.
Yeah. This is actually a really important topic, because we really need to take and embrace conflict resolution, because conflict is a dirty word and we don't want it to be a dirty word. Yeah. You shouldn't want it to be a dirty word, because it opens up real, true, authentic conversation with real people. Yeah. And it really offers great relationships out of it. So, all right. So our first point today.
I love it because I think it's problem solving.
It is problem. It's literally problem solving.
I get off on it. I'm just like, yeah, let's do it. Let's get it.
She's so funny. All right. Point number one. The goal isn't to win.
No. So a long time ago, I thought, again, this was a huge epiphany. I had posted this on Facebook, and it was really talking about more towards marriage, but also towards friendships, that if you're keeping score, you're not thinking of that person being on the same team as you. The only time you keep score is when it's against another team. So there should be no score here. You're not going in this to win, because there is nothing to win. You're on the same team. So if you go into it with more of an understanding, or like, hey, I want to go into it, it's not to win. It's just to have a conversation. We're just having dialogue. A lot of times that can so diffuse a situation. Like if you're talking to somebody and they start getting upset, you need to hold that space, be aware of how their emotions are to that, and you can diffuse that situation. As soon as someone starts getting worked up, they're not in that zone. Right now, they're in their own head. They immediately think, their brain is telling them, I'm being attacked. I have to defend, fight or flight, like I said earlier. So, and if there's not a door available, they're going to fight. Okay. So if you look at the person and just say, hey, we're just having dialogue here. We're just talking. It's all right. It really can diffuse a situation. It'll calm the person down, because the person will react without even thinking about it because their heart rate starts going. They got all those chemicals starting to get released on their brain, and they're doing it before they even realize it. And then once a person is down that track too and they start getting defensive, they don't want to get off that track because they don't want to admit that they were wrong, and then they feel stupid, and then they have to go to it till the end, and then you wouldn't hear from them again probably for a couple weeks until they felt like the dust had settled, and they'd want to come back around and act like nothing ever happened. So it's very, very important to be the bigger person. That's what that means in that situation. Not that you're better than them.
Right.
Not, you are aware that this relationship is more important to you than the fight. So you just have to hold that space, hold that calming space. This is a safe place, safe.
I really think like relationships, we got to look at it when you go into a conversation or you go into a relationship and you try to win, you're actually sabotaging the relationship. Because when you try to win an argument or you try to win a discussion or a point, or you're trying to only make your point and you need this person to understand your point, the relationship as a whole actually fails. So anytime we try to win for us, all of it loses. We lose too, because now we have a relationship that could have been something great. We have maybe some type of discussion that could have ended really fruitful for both parties. It actually ends up bad for both. Nobody actually wins. And it's really funny how as people, we really get to a point where it's like, but you need to understand my opinion. Like, you need to know my opinion. And there is healthy ways to share your opinion without trying to win the argument. Not everyone needs to see things your way. You're not always right. Christy says all the time, there's 2 different or 3 different or 5 different ways to get to the same result. Are you willing to step back within yourselves and within a conversation and say, wait a minute, am I just trying to win this? Or am I trying to come to a specific result when it comes to this conversation, this relationship, whatever's going on at the time? How are we going to achieve this? How are we going to achieve this? If we go into the mindset of, I need to win this, I need to conquer this, I need to come out on top on this, everybody fails. Everybody loses.
And I agree with all of that. I think a lot of people forget why they're entering the conversation to begin with. Like, you are going into the conversation. What is the result that you're looking for out of the conversation? Mm-hmm. That's what you have to remember. Yeah. So the result going into this conversation is to solve a problem or to get the other person's opinion and to get the bigger picture. And it's very, very important. And a lot of times people think, even in our society as a whole and in the church world, that I go into it, if the person's not feeling the same way I am, not only can we not be friends or hang out, but if we're not friends and we can't hang out, then we don't like each other. Yeah. And it's way different. Like, you can love people. This is a huge growth opportunity in recovery, is when you can accept apologies that you're never going to get. You can forgive the person without getting the apology, but then you also not be thinking about that person in an angry or bitter way. And you're not necessarily close with that person, but you don't have any hard feelings about them. And that is a huge, huge growing thing. Because when you understand God created that person too, God loves that person too. That person was created by the same person who created you. So just because you guys don't agree on something or have the same opinion doesn't mean that you have to be friends. Yeah. But you should never, if you're thinking upon someone with a bad attitude, you again need to do a heart check, because that's something usually deep-rooted in yourself. They offended you in some way. There's a pride issue of some way. I mean, there's something down there, because why does it matter? Why does it matter?
Well, I like what you said. Just because you're not friends doesn't mean you have to be enemies.
Right.
Just because, you read the top line on here. You said it earlier, and I think it's good. Read it.
Just because you disagree with someone doesn't mean you need to hate them. So
that's right there. You can hashtag that whole thing, okay? Because it's true. Because we really feel that way. We really get into this whole, like, each end of the spectrum was where we have to live. We either have to live, like, all the way this way, like we're either getting along all the time, or, I'm sorry, I have to hate you. I'm sorry, I'm taking my ball and I'm going home and we can't play. And, no, it doesn't have to be that way. That's where, like, real resolution of conflict means that when just one person wins, everybody loses. It really honestly is that way. And you don't have to agree with everybody. You don't have to like and everybody. None of that even matters.
I'm probably going to bring up something that's taboo right now, but in politics, okay, right now what's going on is if you are a Republican, the Republicans overall, the overarching thing is if you're a Republican, you hate the Democrats. And if you're a Democrat, you hate the Republicans. And let's just be honest, whatever party you're part of, if you went down the whole list of what that party represents, you don't even agree with everything that that party agrees with. You just try to go along with the party that you feel best suit your needs.
Yeah.
So that doesn't mean you need to hate the other party that someone feels like that party best. That doesn't mean they agree with every single other thing that that party does.
Yep.
That just means they went down the list,
Yep.
hopefully, and they are part of the party that they feel best represents them as the bigger picture. It's the same way with people. It doesn't mean like you have to hate that other person. You went down the list and the majority of that person is someone that you couldn't mesh with. So you're not going to be friends with them. You don't hate them.
No.
You're just not part of that party. That's all.
Yeah, we had a huge discussion and a vote in our church this past weekend. And, when the vote ended, the losing, one of the people that voted on the losing end of the vote spoke up directly after the vote. And this person spoke up and said, hey, the vote's now over, but we're all still one body of Christ.
Yeah.
We're still one family here. We're still one church. Just because we don't agree on this matter, this one single matter, doesn't mean that we're not all together and all in love. That, to me, that's the ultimate conflict resolution right there.
Mm-hmm.
Like, look, now this is over. It's done. We've stated our opinions. We've said how we feel. We casted our vote. The vote is over. Win, lose, or draw. We're all in it together. And that, to me, is so encouraging. That's real conflict resolution. If you have to be willing to live it, though, not just think it, not just say it, you have to be willing to be it.
Well, that means you have to believe it.
And you have to believe it. So, Number two is, you have to listen to understand.
Yes. And that is something that I am probably outside of work, because I'm a leader at work and I take that, I think, as a huge responsibility. But in my personal life, I'm probably 50-50 on this. That I do have growth that I need to do it. Now, I've come a long way. I mean, Josh can probably attest to this. Before I really went through 12 steps and really went through a healing process for myself, when it comes to listening to understanding, I was probably 10%. And that's probably giving myself a little bit. So sometimes we get so caught up in our, like, I'm coming to you because I want to hurry up and tell you. I mean, that's what social media is about, right? Like, I hurry up and want to post on my Facebook feed because I want to make sure everybody knows what my opinion is. And that is so wrong. And I'm guilty of it. So you have to go into saying, okay, I'm going into this and I'm switching a switch in my brain and I'm approaching it with the possibility that I'm wrong. And whenever I have done that, it brings humility to the table. It doesn't put the other person on the defense right away. Yeah. If I go into the situation, if you really are going into the situation to understand the situation, which with any other human being, that's the way that you should, you are going to be asking more questions than you are making statements. So if I go in really wanting to understand and really going to expect the other person to listen to understand me, I'm going to take responsibility to set the tone for that. Yeah. So I want them to know we're on the same team. We're just talking. And I really do want to know what your feelings are about it. And then once that person's done talking and you say, okay, what I'm hearing that you're saying is this, this, and this. Am I hearing you correctly? And then they'll say, yes, they feel heard. People just want to be heard. That's it. Once you've heard them first, they'll be way more open to listen to you. And a lot of people will get into that, well, I shouldn't always have to be the person that does it. Well, too bad. Too bad. I mean, if you really want to set a change, if you want to be a movement maker, if you really want to take your faith, family, and future to the next level, that is your responsibility to do that.
Amen.
That says about my character. I can never be like, I don't care. I don't care today. I've done it in the last 27 relationships that I've been in, friendships and everything else. And with my pastor and with church people and at work, I'm always doing it. This 28th person I'm dealing with today, they don't get it. because I've done it enough. That's childish. Just me saying that is like me throwing a 41-year-old temper tantrum, which doesn't help anybody.
It doesn't. And I think a lot of times when we go, if we're willing to step up and say, all right, I'm going to handle this conflict, right?
Yeah.
I'm going to handle it. Now, all we're doing now is we're going with the attitude that I'm just waiting for my time to respond. And we are all victims of this. I'm victim of this. Maybe Christy's not, but I am. Okay. And we wait to our time. We wait for a perfect time to be able to respond, right? And I've got this all planned out in my head. I know exactly what I'm going to say. The conversation, the relationship is already lost when we go into that. If we go into it and say, look, my goal is for us to have this completely resolved. And the only way we're going to do that is if I'm willing to listen to the person and really understand what they're trying to say. We're all living, breathing, thinking people. Okay. Some of us think a little more emotionally than others, but some of us don't think with any emotion. And that makes difficult exchange of conversation a lot of times. That's why it's really important for us to slow down and listen to understand what the person's trying to say. And most of the time we can say, well, it was just really a misunderstanding. Wow, I heard that wrong. Or you heard me wrong. Like, it just was really a huge misunderstanding. All this time, we're avoiding each other. We're staying away from each other. You know, I'm blocking you on Facebook, right? I'm doing passive aggressive comments to everybody at church about you, you know, and this whole time, it was just a misunderstanding. It was a look that I didn't understand, or it was something I said you didn't understand. And the whole way to figure that out is when we get into conversation is we say, I'm going to shut up. I'm going to use my 2 ears and I'm going to listen to this person and really understand what's going on and not get offended by it.
Yeah. And if you're anything like me, like right now, I don't have my phone or a piece of paper out that I can take notes. Josh is like talking. And then I'm like, I think of all these things that I want to say and I don't remember any of them. Because then he'll say something else and I'll think of something else. So one of the big things when you're going into conflict resolution is don't interrupt the person. So if you need to get your phone out to in the notes section, I do this a lot when I go and talk to customers because I'm very more self-aware when I'm talking to a customer that I don't need to interrupt them. That should tell me a lot about how I respect that relationship more than I respect a friendship. Because a friendship, I'd be more willing to be like, ooh, since you said that, I interrupt them. And that immediately offends the person. It's rude. It's rude. So if you take a piece of paper and a pen, like a little pen with you, or you pull up the notes section on your phone, like as they're talking, you can just be like, hey, I'm just gonna, I just thought of something, and before you go in it. I say that to customers when I go in to sit down and meet with them. I really am wanting to hear what they have to say. I pull my phone out and I'm like, hey, I'm not ignoring you. I'm typing things down in my notes section while you're talking. I look up, make eye contact with them, all of that stuff. The same should be done in any of, especially if you're the one that's taking the bull by the horns in this and you really want to have conflict resolution. You need to go into it with all of your gear. Okay, you need to go into it prepared. So I want to go into it with something that I can write stuff down. I'm not going to have to interrupt the person. I can ask them as I'm thinking a question I want to ask them or something, not a statement, clarification questions. I can put these down. It's going in with a resolution mindset, not a fight mindset. Like, I want this problem resolved. And a lot of times problems always come down to communication. It's usually always a misunderstanding. Yep. It's usually a person or you using the wrong tone, or they used the wrong tone, and then people want, it's not what you said, it's how you said it, type of thing. They want to get into all of that. So you have to keep your head on straight. You need to remember the end goal. You need to go into it like, I want this resolved. I want this relationship to be good at the end, even if we part ways. Yep. In a respectful, honorable way, and not like I'm going to make passive aggressive comments about you to everybody, and then a lot of times that's childish too. We'll get around someone else and they'll be like, oh, so-and-so. And you're like, oh, so-and-so. And then they're like, oh, what are you? Nothing. That's whatever. It's a tone. So it's very, very, this is a big deal to me. It's a big deal. I think it's a huge area of opportunity in our society as a whole. I think actually, the more generations that come up, I think the worse it is. I think that they don't know. Our kids are on computers and text messages. They don't even pick up the phone anymore. If you try to call them, they don't answer. And then you get a text message 2 seconds later saying, what do you need? Like, they don't know. So, I mean, it just gets worse and worse and worse. No one knows really or respects conflict resolution.
Yeah, I agree. Number 3, and this is probably
we still haven't gotten to number 3.
Yeah, it's all good. Number 3 is one of those ones where I think this is where it's all at. This is where it's all at. Okay, don't avoid the conflict. The worst thing, the very worst thing you can do in burning bridges, ruining relationships, having something that's amazing that goes completely south, and always is avoiding the conflict. Don't avoid the conflict.
Yes, and the thing about it with don't avoid the conflict is this can go in the other direction too. So some people get up on their high horse like every time their feelings get hurt, which is like 27 times a day at least. They want to address it every single time. Like, and they're just like, I am just deal with things head on. I'm just an honest person. No, a lot of times it's not worth the energy. So it is good sometimes to sleep on it. Like, is this really going to matter in 5 years? Is this really going to matter in 2 days? Or is it something that really is going to affect your relationship? Is it something that really offended you or affected you to your core? Was it a moral thing? Was it a non-negotiable for you that this person did? Okay, sleep on it. Never react out of emotions. You need to collect yourself. Everyone has the right to get angry. God gave us that emotion for a reason. As long as we don't sin in the anger, there's nothing wrong with it. So if you get angry, that's okay. You need to go and you need to collect yourself. You need to pray about it. You really need to look up scripture if you need to. And you really need to come back with a clean heart, going into it, looking to resolve it, not looking to fight about it. And that's a huge thing. People, again, it's fight or flight. So it's like, I'm going to fight you about it, or I'm not going to talk to you anymore, because that's flight. So it's, we need to be willing to embrace the conflict as an opportunity to make things better.
I really like, though, how you keep saying opportunity, because I think it's really a mind shift is really what it is, a mindset shift when it comes to relationships, communication. Almost all communication boils down to the ability to say, this conflict I'm willing to embrace, and I'm willing to look at it as an opportunity to make things better between me and the other person, no matter who it is. Yeah. There's so many times that we get caught up and we're like, can't make eye contact, or I have tried. I mean, I can't remember how many times in my life I've used that phrase, but I've tried. But have I really tried? Have I really been willing to put in the energy to make sure? Now, I like how Christy went to the other end of it too. There's some people who are like, man, I bring it on. I don't mind conflict at all. No, you don't mind the conflict. You just don't like the resolution portion of it. And there's a huge difference, right? So it's like, all I want to do is be in conflict all the time with people and say, this is my opinion. I'm not afraid of you. This is my opinion. I'm not afraid of you. Right. But where's all your resolution skills? Where's your listening skills? Where's your ability to step back out of yourself for a minute and say, I'm willing to really nurture this relationship and really really take this as an opportunity to resolve what's going on. And not every situation can be resolved. And that's okay.
Nor should it be on social media.
No, it should never be on social media. But the point being is that sometimes you get into a disagreement with somebody, you go into it, you want to have conflict resolution, and you can't come to a resolution. That is a resolution. You've done all you can do. Mm-hmm. Now it's okay that you're both adults and you both can part ways, knowing, hey, this relationship, it's just not going to work, and that's okay.
Well, a lot of in this day and age too, because of technology, text messages, emails, all of that. My rule of thumb is someone reaches out to you, or you reach out to them, and you respond back to them, or they respond back to you. Let's just do one so it doesn't get confusing. Someone reaches out to you like, I'm upset about blah, 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 blah. And you respond in text saying blah, 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 blah. They respond back and they obviously got more upset. Do not respond again via text message. It's always like, my rule of thumb is you go back and back, one and one, and there's still a misunderstanding, there needs to be a face-to-face or a phone call made, a phone call minimally, so they can hear the tone of your voice, they can hear the calmness in your voice, they can hear the love in your voice. It's trying to resolve a conflict back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. via text message or email or on social media is no. That's a no. I don't care how good of a communicator you think you are. And I've made that mistake. Even to this day, I'm just like, there's no way. They know me. They know how I talk. They know how I am. The person doesn't receive it or read it in your tone. They read it in the tone that they're in at that moment. Amen. If they're angry in that day and they've had a bad day that has nothing to do with you and they're mad, they're reading your response in an angry tone. It is. So that's a huge no.
Yeah, you read a text message just a little while ago from your son Garrett, and she read it like that. She read it just like that, and I meant to say something too. I'm like, oh man, you read it in a way that completely a different way than what I thought that it was said.
I did.
Not that it was that big of a deal, but it's just that's a very good, well put point. Like it is, So like every week, we want to bring you a challenge. We want to challenge. If we're not challenging ourselves, what are we bothered for? We're never going to take our faith, our family, and our future to the next level. We're just not. So we have to challenge ourselves. So this day, today, what conflict do you have that you need to confront? Now, if someone offered you $1 million to solve and resolve your conflict, I guarantee whatever it is, you wouldn't text the person, you wouldn't email them. You would talk to them face to face. You would resolve it in the best way because we know how to do it. So who is this person? Who's on your heart right now? What's this issue right now that needs to be confronted and solved? What kind of opportunity do you have in your life right now?
Yes.
Right?
I want to put that on the other side, though, a little bit.
Let's do it.
So if you have like a mother that you've tried this over or a toxic relationship, and usually it's a family member because their family members were less likely to not talk to anymore, right? Because we this whole society thing, blood's thicker than water. And even if you're in an abusive relationship and it's a parent, people are like, but it's your dad. It's crazy. But if it's a relationship that you have been the bigger person, you have done everything that you can, you've tried to communicate in the most healthy way, and it's not received on the other side, there's only so many times you can beat a dead horse. I mean, so we're not saying in this situation, go again and put yourself through the emotional turmoil of doing this all again when the outcome is going to be the same. A lot of people with I shouldn't say a lot, but a few of your relationships in your life that you've set up healthy boundaries with, you already know what the outcome is going to be. No matter how great you feel in your heart about that person, you don't need to put yourself through that again. We're talking about a relationship that maybe ended on bad terms, or you're in right now that you're not dealing with. Maybe you're upset about something and it's a friend that you're talking to on a daily basis and you're mad at them about something and they don't even know. Like, that is what we're talking about.
Yeah, I think, it's pretty much one of those types of things. If there's been a conflict and you really know in your heart you haven't given it your best, you haven't, and for sure for a fact that if you really were willing to take the things that we've talked about today and apply them, that you really feel that there could be some type of outcome in it, then challenge yourself to do it. Step up.
Yeah.
Step up. It's hard. Conflict is hard. Nobody likes conflict.
Role play with someone that you know.
Yeah, nobody likes conflict except for Christy, because Christy likes it. Christy's like, at work, she's like, I love conflict because it gives me an opportunity. It's because she's put herself in a position now to where she's like the conflict resolution queen.
I just love people.
Because she's worked on it so hard for so long. Now it's like, oh, do you have a problem with that person? Bring them on over. Let's work it out. Woohoo, because it's like, it's just a matter of following these few simple things and really putting them into practice and really caring. I like what you said, really caring about the person, really caring that you have an opportunity to really nurture something awesome.
Well, that's because, in all honesty, the reason why I'm able to accept the fact that I can leave a relationship and have all the understanding in the world that we don't mesh well together, and I wish them all the best, is because I really, really want the person that I'm talking to love themselves. I really do. I want them to know that however they feel, if it's biblical, if it lines up with the Bible, and they really are trying their best, it doesn't matter what we're going through. I really want you to know that God loves you. I really want you to love yourself. And I really want you just to be able to live your life and not live in fear. And that is the end goal for me
Yep.
in conflict resolution is how is this person feeling about themselves at the end? How am I going to feel about myself at the end? Am I going to feel worse about myself, about how I handled the situation? Or am I going to feel bad about myself? So, or good or however. So I was reading the comments. So
I know you were.
off.
Sorry.
But that is the whole point. Like you really want to reflect God. And that is a huge responsibility for us, Christ followers, is that we really want to reflect to as humanly possible, and we're not perfect, to what God's communication skills would be. And there's a lot of people out there, I didn't know this, but the word Christian means Christ follower. So there's a lot of people out there that say they're Christians, and what they mean is they believe that there's a God. Well, so does Satan, so does his demons. Okay, so Satan believes that there's a God. Satan's not saved. He's not going to heaven. So the difference between a person actually being a Christian means that they're a Christ follower. So if you're a Christ follower and you really want to take your faith, family, and future to the next level, you really need to embrace the higher road on these things and not be bitter about it. And I went through a bitter time where I would take the higher road, but I hated it. And then I'd pray in the morning like, I'm going to do this, and I don't want to. Ugh. And then eventually God changes my heart and he grows me. And that's what we want, right? We want to have a ripple effect, the butterfly effect throughout the world for Jesus, and we need it now more than ever. We need conflict resolution now more than ever.
More than ever. There's really not much more to say other than that. So we didn't have really a big chance today to really kind of go through the comments and stuff. I know a lot of you guys were commenting on it. We knew this was going to be a heavy topic.
I
really
could talk
full.
all day, people.
It's super easy to talk about. We really hope you found some value in it. Please help us share our episodes. Help us beat Mark Zuckerberg's algorithms, okay, on Facebook. Help us reach more people. We really want to encourage. If anybody has any topics, anything you guys are looking for, you want us to hit on, drop them down. Hashtag it. Hashtag say new topic. And then tell us what you want us to talk about.
Tyler, I know you got some topics.
We're always looking for new topics. Yes, we're always looking for new topics and stuff. We always talk about things that we feel are relevant, things that we feel that we want to talk about, but maybe there's other topics that you want to talk about. We'd really be interested in that. So make sure you hashtag new topic and drop it on there, and then we can come up with some stuff and hopefully cover it in a way that is beneficial for you and for us
and for God.
And always for God. So I want to thank everybody for being here. We will see you guys next week at 7 on Tuesday.
Bye.
Bye.